Alright, so I don't have the normal, just raw race footage from this epic race because I recorded for 2 hours and there was no audio. Well, there was game audio, there wasn't audio from me. So I figured what I was thinking about doing anyway is kind of doing some ride reviews and kind of going fast through everything because sitting through a 2 hour race isn't really feasible. So this will be the first instance. So this Zwift epic race, it's about 40 miles, about 2.5K of climbing, and I thought that the start was going to be a little more relaxed than this. This isn't exactly crazy, but it's has me uncomfortable. You know, there's a lot of power zones in the red. I'm pushing almost up to 4 watts a kilogram. But at the same time, for a start of a race, this isn't exactly out of character. So I get back in. At this point, you can see me complaining and being happy that I can go down to zone 3, zone 2. But needless to say, it doesn't exactly stay this way. Now, I don't know why, but this random guy just popped up out of nowhere. And I'm guessing they disconnected or something, but now you get all the A riders attacking because they don't want to be left out in the dust. That really strings things out now. I mean, in my eyes, if somebody attacks to ride on their own 40 miles away from the finish, if they can hold that by themselves the whole time, let them go. But I start to get worried here. You know, my heart rate was pretty high. I let this gap go, mostly knowing that I'm not going to be able to finish with the top riders. But I do have a little bit of FOMO, and you'll see me make a push here. Slow it down a bit. So now I am pushing 4.5, 7 watts a kilogram. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I missed the move. Everybody's slowing down. But this ends up working out. So this is about when I give up. You can see these 2 riders just get a little bit too far away from me. And then I'm in a group of about 5, which actually was perfect because these guys were fantastic to ride with. And things basically stay stable all the way through the desert here up until we get to the mountains. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because, truth be told, nothing really exciting happens here. You know, we stay about 8-9 seconds back, and you'll see as we push up here, we get up to a minute back. So now we're kind of in the proper S's. I think Rude was the only one that didn't get to stay with that group. You know, they still want everybody to work together here. And now we're about to start the regular climb. You know, I'm not very uncomfortable. My heart rate's 162. You know, we keep pushing up to some 300 watts, but then going back down. And since I am a punchy rider, it's really not the end of the world. So I was kind of expecting that we would stick around 3.5, 3.6 watts a kilogram, which we do. And we all stick together pretty well. And we started making some gains on Rude in front of us. And this climb in general really isn't too steep. It's only about 3 minutes long, I want to say. And by the time we get to the top, Rude will fully be in our group. But you can tell we're all working well together. We're not trying to attack each other. And when you're 35 miles from a finish, it's really nice to be in a group like that, because if you start to ride solo, it's not fun. I'm also worried about my fan here. I thought it was on a lower setting, so I hop off the bike It's not. It's on the regular setting, so I get back on. We got some guy in the front doing the little power tuck. I usually don't like to do that. I like to spin my legs out and keep them loose. And then there's a little bit of an incline right at the end here that everybody pushes pretty hard on. And I ended up getting a pretty big leg pump here. And I was a little worried that I was going to get dropped through the S's. But it ends up being just fine. And so if we swap over to my efforts here. So about a 213 watt average, 22 miles an hour for this whole bit. For the KOM, about 18 miles an hour, 250 watts. And that climb is only it's about 5 minutes, so 5:28, I think my best. If we open that up, use two hands. Oh, it opens right down here. Yeah, so it's really not too bad. Hide that. Switch back, we got the nice Burt Aesthetics mixtape album artwork. This Shogun song is really good. There's some Emalock, but I mean right here it's basically recovery. You probably saw me eating a little bit. I had some rice from a chicken bowl that I had left over from the night before. And really it's kind of just relaxing until the next big climb, which is not too far off. You know, I don't usually try and lead or drive the bus, as they say, especially when a pretty big effort is coming up. But I didn't want the group to get away from me, and judging by how fast everybody pushed up on that little incline, I was thinking that we were going to end up going around 4 watts a kilogram, which we do here. Carpenter pulls away a little bit. I usually like to stay 1 or 2 riders back, especially when you're in a group, because usually you can all hop together and catch that one flyer. And I didn't want to be the guy to break up this group, because we really were working well together and nobody was attacking. So you can see I'm kind of hanging back here, still hitting 4.5, 5 watts a kilogram. As we get to the top, push back up. You know, Fernandez is falling behind a little bit. He's like 15 seconds back. But he's still working through the top and pushing 5 watts a kilogram. Nobles was getting distance a little bit too, but they've got a nice group there. And Fernandez, you can see the time coming down, 9 seconds, 8 seconds. He's really not pushing too hard, under 2 watts a kilogram. He's a heavier rider, so anytime that there was some sort of a decline, he was able to catch up pretty nicely. So we kind of finished with the Hilly KOM. You know, I didn't really get any PBs or anything, and I wasn't expecting that on such a hard climb. But it was under 3 minutes and still pushing 272 watts. You know, this effort's at 74%. You know, my PR is 2 minutes, 8 seconds. So you're still 40 seconds off, so until I pace that pretty well. Go back through the front. You know, Nobles was flying off a little bit, but no reason to panic considering we had a nice group of guys here, about 5 people. I think we're up to 6. Fernandez is almost done, working their butt off. Back downhill. And again, I'll fast forward a little bit because we really just stay grouped here up through the volcano. Alright, inside the volcano. And a lot of this was kind of recovery. And at this point I was a little worried that people might start to attack each other. You know, we are about halfway through. This is a race. We're all kind of sitting around 50th. my goal was to get in top 40, and that was seeming kind of impossible. You know, this rider Casati, who's been sitting out there in front of us nearly the entire race. He's 37 seconds ahead of time, and the other rider's 2 minutes ahead. You know, you really wonder how you're going to make up any sort of time. And realistically, I was still trying to pace myself because I like to do the 20-mile races, not the 40-mile races. I don't know what I'm talking about there. I think I'm talking about toe hooks and heel hooks for rock climbing. So not exactly on topic. But I was joking about how, again, my rest day was bouldering for almost 2 hours, and so my legs felt a little spicy. Now we're at the climb proper. I believe Carpenter leads us out pretty well. Or Obi does. And they're going hard. I mean, they were pushing 5 watts a kilogram. Again, when one person flies, I don't like to react to that. I like to see what the group's going to do. Again, 23 miles out. These two, Carpenter and Elise, they push, so I push with them. 5-6 watts a kilogram gets me right back on. You know, we are putting time on Casati in front of us, but they're still holding 4 or 5 watts a kilogram, and now you can start to see the other people coming down. So 7 minutes ahead, they're flying. And I'm still feeling pretty good here. You know, my heart rate's at 160. So I'd lead this bus out a little bit. Do some pacing. You know, Fernandez and Rude, they're not too far behind, but Noble, they're bleeding time. And I don't believe they end up catching back up. Lead everybody out. I do push the pace here a little bit. There is a nice amount of time to rest before we go back to those foothills again. So I don't mind going up closer to the red, get the heart rate up to the 170s. Got a little bit of a flat here. I probably should have kept pushing. I think we could have put some good time into Casati, but you know, we were working hard. Fernandez does some pacing at the front. I didn't think anybody was really going to push here, as Fernandez was saying he couldn't find where was his father. I think he meant feather, which he typed in, but I gave him some crap for that down the line. So Louise goes off. And I pushed pretty hard too, but because there was such a big downhill, I don't worry about burning a match to try and get back on, because when you've got, let's see, we've got one guy right on my wheel, Rude, who caught back up. Carpenter's there now too. And Fernandez, like I said, definitely a heavier rider and was able to push us on these downhills. But, I mean, at the end of that, Casati's still 3 minutes, still 30 seconds ahead of us. I mean, they're just dangling out there like a carrot this whole time. But now we traveled down through the downtown area. So I'm going to fast forward here as we all start bantering together. I mean, that's a fun part about these epic races. You do ride with the same groups for so long, and it's kind of a misery loves company type of thing, and it brings everybody closer together. Because these are like this ends up being about a 2-hour ride, and you're riding with the same group for 2 hours. Now, we weren't chatting that much, because we were working quite a bit. But we all take turns at the front. I think once we get through the downtown, that's when I start to take a few pulls at the front. I mean, Casati still put 15 seconds onto us, so it again looks like we're not going to catch him. No power-ups in this race. And then I start to realize I need to fuel here, so I try and eat some more rice, granola bar, blow the old nose. Because for whatever reason, every time I ride, I just constantly have a runny nose. It's really annoying. And we'll slow things down. And I thought we were going to push through here pretty hard. Once I get to this hour mark or hour 20-minute mark, that's usually when I will hit some sort of a wall, whether it's just soreness in the legs, my butt starts to hurt because you're just pedaling hard for 2 hours. But surprisingly, we all continue to pace well together. You know, we just had those 1 or 2 attacks on the volcano, and really it was just one move that we all kind of followed really well. Fernandez leads us out for a lot of the way here, which is pretty impressive. Wonder if they were worried about getting dropped, if they were feeling that good. But really, this is the last difficult climb. Only about 2 minutes or so. And Nobles was kind of the only guy that we had lost at this point. We were pacing out at like 3.7, I think was the highest we were hitting. But once we get to the end here, Fernandez starts to fall back a little bit once we hit this steeper portion right at the top. And Elise and Rude are pushing pretty hard. So Fernandez is now gapped by 3 seconds, which is a little worrying. I don't want to drop him because, I mean, we've worked with the guy, so I give him a little bit of motivation. And he gets right back on. So we show him some love. Going back here, you know, for the Volcano KOM. Bit of a higher effort, 254 watts. Ended up being about a 9-minute climb. My top was 750, so still nowhere near what I had done before. But this was a 40-mile race. And then Titans Grove. That ended up being a 2-minute effort. You know, it's kind of funny. The KOM on the front side is 528 and this back side's 221, so significantly shorter. Now, I thought we weren't going to really be attacking now until the very end. Because you look at this profile, I mean, most of it's downhill. Any sort of attack on the downhill is really hard to stay away. But that's not the case. Fernandez goes hard. And they get away for about a minute or so that they're on their own. So they're 2 seconds ahead. Elise pushes up a little bit. But I know that we have this downhill. I'm like, I am going to work. We're going to just draft and catch Fernandez. I was almost wondering, because they stopped pedaling here, I was thinking maybe they had like dropped something and they wanted to get ahead and pick it up because they had to hop off their trainer or something. Or maybe they just saw that they weren't going to get away. So now I really do take a rest. And oddly enough, you can see there's 2 riders that we are pretty darn close to. We're only 14 seconds back from Smolko and Abate. And going through these tunnels, you go really quite fast. I mean, 11 seconds back, 10 seconds back. And we're not even pedaling that hard. We're all under 3 watts a kilogram I guess they're only doing 2.5, 6, 2.5, 2.6, a little bit of 3. But they must have just popped or something and wanted to come back with this group. Again, Kasadi is just a minute 30 seconds out on their own. It's crazy. I don't... They were riding so well. And I just feel so bad because I think if they would have been in that group that was 30 seconds, 40 seconds ahead, they would have finished much faster than they did. 'Cause I don't really think they were drafting at all. So now we've got this little bit of a false flat coming up. Our group has grown. My goal of being top 40 is close. So standing around 42, 41. So I'm thinking, you know, we're in this group. I love to sprint. I think I can probably out-sprint all these people. I was thinking Fernandez would probably be the hardest person to out-sprint just based on how strong they were. They had that little attack. And they stayed away for a few seconds. But I was very confident that I would be able to stay with the group on this climb. And I'm not a person to attack very far out. So I was just wanted to stay with this group to the desert, and then I would make a move basically right before the finish, maybe a minute out from the finish line. Proper climb. I don't like to push until I get to the dark red. I think that usually works out very well. Because really that's where you can make the most ground. So you can see I got up to 5. And I start leading this group out. And again, I'm not one to attack from this far back. I don't want to break up this group. I am confident I can out-sprint them. A lot of times people attack here, and then Fernandez pops, unfortunately. Give him some love. And I was convinced at this point that that was it. It would be smooth sailing to the end. We now have 5 people here. Figure if there was going to be any attack, it would have been at the top of that climb. But a bait starts pushing. And Elise starts to push. And everyone kind of takes their turns to attack. I'm like, I've ridden for freaking 35 miles. I'm not getting dropped now. So Rude goes hard. Just calling him Rude Boy the whole time. Super strong. I push up to be with Rude Boy. Elise pushes, but then must have won the arrow. And I just kept riding. I figured Elise is with us, and then a bait is 8 seconds back with Smolko. And I'm pissed here because I'm like, I don't like to attack from far. I don't like the 5-minute efforts. I don't like the 10-minute efforts. That's not what I like to do at all. I like the 15, 20 second, maybe even a minute. So now I'm working with Rude. KOM Reverse. I mean, that was pretty fast. 237 watts. My fastest was 4 minutes, so we're still a minute off from my fastest. But freaking Rude is doing exactly what I would do and was making me do all the work through that false flat, and now I get a little bit of a break. I'll slow things down here a little bit because this is a fun little cat and mouse with Rude. So we're about 20 seconds ahead of Elise. And then we got the other couple of guys 30 seconds back, so we're definitely going to stay away. I was complaining about Solar Stone because Solar Stone's like Psytrance and is just not doesn't really get the blood going like some of the other music out there. And I'm just freaking gassed. I don't want to do anything. Rude's drafting me again. And because of these tactics, I figured that they would be like a sprinter as well. So which also really worried me. We'll go to real time. Which is going to seem really slow now because we were watching it so fast. So we're kind of chilling, 200 watts. Rude's still right there. I'm trying to figure out when to attack. You know, my legs are pretty fried. Usually what I would like to do is right at the start of the sprint here is when I would go, and that's what I ultimately decide to do. Pray to the sprint gods. So silly. Because now we're just playing with our food. There we go. Cock of the head. 4.3, 9.2, 9, 10. Rude reacts. And I saw him hit that 10. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be hard. I get up to 11.4, and I think once I got that second gap, I was like, oh, okay. I want to keep going, and I'm like, I'm motivated, but then I get to the 4 seconds ahead. I'm like, no, I'm going to chill too. And I hit the 40 then. 40 was the goal. A little bit of a flex. I mean, that was hard. I don't like those really long races, and that's why I'm trying to do them more. Because I want to increase my 20-minute power. It's my power profile here. Pretty good sprint, 92%. Let's see. 32 seconds was my PB. That's not that far off. And considering how long that I had been riding, pretty happy with that. If we go to the Zwift power here. 20-minute efforts, like everybody's above 4 almost. And you get, even in like the top 10 and right below, you're still seeing people in the 4s, 8 minutes back. And then I averaged 3.1. We're about 17 minutes back. I got that 10.7 watt per kilogram sprint. And I think, you know, I've been looking at some of the other profiles, so just to put things in perspective here, you can see I'm all about the sprinting. My 20-minute power is like 3.7, my weakest. 5 is pretty weak too. But looking at some of the other people right ahead of me with their 20-minute powers, so mine was, what, 3.7? 3.8, so theirs is better. Andrews 3.6, so they rode pretty hard. I think I maybe could have been riding with this group here until you get up to 31 with current at 3.7 watts a kilogram. I can't do that because if you go look at all my other races, my 20 minutes are still like 3.1, 3, 2, 5, 6. So any podium that I get is usually these short little races, and that's why I like doing these long ones. But it was fun. And I think from now on what I'll do is I might try and stream these races maybe, because I kind of like this long form, just kind of talking, not a lot of editing, because a lot of the editing sometimes can get a little chaotic, you know, with all the cuts. So we'll see what we kind of do in the future. I think either way, I'll probably do a ride review like this along with posting a unedited race, which, you know, I wanted to do today, but it ain't happening when I don't have any audio. So thanks for watching. If you're interested in some of the music that I was playing, I didn't really talk about it, but I think I'll still link it. You know, there were some really good Matt Zoe songs that I liked that came up. That RL Grimes song came up that I liked, and we had a few others. But till next time, appreciate it, y'all. Cheers.